Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Breakfast Bankroll for Monday, November 14th, 2022. The weekend is over. It's a new week. If you survived, God bless you. Absolutely super stoked to start the week with good friend and colleague, B2B at Beating the Book. It's been a while since we had him on the show. Life gets fast, this, that, the other thing, but we're back today, ready to join forces to talk what's going on in the world of sports and what's going on in the future. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. BDB at Beating the Bookie.
Good morning, Jeff. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Another week, another chance to get paid, I guess, you know?
I don't know where to start. This time of year, especially once the clock struck November 1st, in comes college basketball. Now, a lot of people take different approaches. Some people, that's their sport. Some people just dabble. Some people wait till the conference starts in the beginning of January, or et cetera, et cetera. When all these sports are going on, Rob, where we got NFL at past the halfway point, college football rounded into bowl season, NHL, NBA, you do a boatload of soccer. Live, how do you juggle all this?
I mean, I've been doing it for so long, I think. And, you know, I'm home all day. I mean, I'm working all day. So there's plenty of time when you have all the time in the world to do all of it. So, I mean, if I had a job, if I had like a 9-to-5 job, I mean, probably would be hard to do. But I'm home all day doing this all day. So really have plenty of time. You know, I really don't do any golf right now until you know, February. So I have the time that I would have used from golf. I have that on college basketball now. And it will be a busier time than usual at this time of year right now, especially like with the World Cup coming up in November, which I think is terrible, but you know, we do what we got to do. There's just plenty of time, you know, there's never enough time. You know, what happens is I get sick like I am right now from staying up too late, stuff like that. But I think college basketball right now is one of those like early season. It's like tread lightly, you know. There's just so many big, large spreads and stuff. Just picking a few spots here or there, you know, not really overplaying any spots, and just kind of getting into the grind of conference season, like you said. Or I like when we're coming up to these holiday tournaments for basketball. So I'm going to the Bahamas on Friday, and they're having the Bahamar. They're having a tournament there. Oklahoma State's there, a couple of other teams. So I'm looking forward to that. But like you know, there's never enough time in the day. But if you just plan it out, if you plan it out just like anything else, I mean, you do just fine. You know, I try not to waste any hours in the day. You know, just try to make it as efficient as I can. And I've been doing that for years, so I'm just used to it now.
Last time we met, you and I, we were sitting at the Aria Sportsbook, Florida State versus LSU, me, you, and your dad. Don't really want to relive that ending for you. Take us from there to where we are in college football. I mean, I know we could talk for hours about the Hurricanes and what is going on with them. I won't put you through that as well. How's college football been? What are you seeing? Any potential futures? Anything maybe we can get in now? Or what have you seen in the first 10, 11 weeks?
Sorry, I hit mute by accident. College football, I mean, this is like one of those seasons where I think it's like the most open we've seen it in a few years. We have Alabama down, seemingly out of the playoff picture. We have the Pac-12 is rounding into form, doing their usual, blowing it before they even get a chance to go to the playoffs. So I think college football. I mean, for college football, it was the first few weeks of the season were like all over the place, But the last 4 or 5, 6 weeks have been pretty good. We did well on. I did well on Saturday, except I had a max play on SMU team total over 44.5, and they had 600 yards total offense. They did whatever they wanted. They just settled for a field goal. They just basically were trying to. It was such a blowout at the end. They're trying to run the clock out and just get out of there. They just settled for like a short field goal, a couple of short field goals during the game. So that always kills team totals. But had a pretty decent day with the Alabama under, Oklahoma State outright. As a home dog to Iowa State, which they should never be. So we had a pretty decent Saturday, and college right now I had a lot of futures on Bama, so like Bryce Young, Heisman, stuff like that. So I'm wondering what we're going to see for the playoffs. I think we're going to get 2 SEC teams in there right now. We're going to get Georgia and Tennessee probably. Hopefully, we do not see a rematch in the semifinals. Hopefully, we can avoid that. I'm just interested to see what the other conferences do. If LSU LSU somehow beats Georgia for the SEC championship, does a 2-loss LSU make the playoff? A 2-loss team has never made it. So I just think it's just a crazy time right now for college football. We don't have the traditional Oklahomas. We don't have the traditional Clemson right now. So it's going to be an interesting finish for sure. Could we get 3 out of the 4 from the SEC? I mean, that's possible right now. I would say so. If LSU wins it all, wins the SEC championship, can we get 3 out of 4 from the SEC and 1 Big Ten team? It's going to be a crazy, drama-filled playoff selection. If TCU is undefeated, can you take a 1-loss SEC team over TCU, right? So there's a lot of questions that I think we would be well served by going to an expanded playoff this year as opposed to waiting for next. So,
yeah, you hit a lot of chords. I was mildly surprised the way TCU handled Texas over the weekend. I thought that I would have got them their 1 loss and then they would have been out. Obviously, Oregon, that was the best game of the weekend, Oregon and Washington. Those 2 guys just went quarterback play was amazing, especially in the second half there with Bo and the Indiana transfer there. I guess if TCU sheets, they're going to get in.
Yeah.
If LSU played out, I'm sorry, Georgia played Alabama last year. Georgia knew it didn't matter. They were undefeated. Bama had 1 loss. They weren't going to show them the playbook because win, lose, or draw, they were going to the Final Four. That's my take. So now the interesting thing is if LSU knocks off Georgia, they're in. They're definitely in, and Georgia's going to be in. So then you got Ohio State, Michigan. The winner of that game is probably most likely going to be in. Then you have that final one. It is a lot of question marks that we're not used to seeing because Bama already has the 2 losses.
Yeah, I think the difference between the SEC championship and championship last year was Alabama was healthy in 1 game versus unhealthy in the championship, down to no receivers. But I do think we're not going to see a 1-loss Big Ten team get in here, right? It's not going to be. I heard people talking yesterday about if Michigan loses closely to Ohio State, they could still make it. That's not going to happen. if you don't play for the Big Ten championship, you're not going to make the playoffs this year, especially with the wild card of TCU coming in. So if TCU is undefeated, which they should be, they'll definitely be in, and they should be in. I mean, holding Texas, to 10 points is very good. Texas didn't get much help from Quinn Ewers, who he seems to do well against the garbage teams, but against tough teams, he's very inaccurate. Like, I think he was like 17 for 39, 15 for 39, something like that. So TCU looked great, getting that win on the road, big win for them. And they should pretty much be in if they win their conference. So you got TCU, then you're going to have 2 SEC teams, and then a Big Ten team. Pac-12, it's tough to say the Pac-12 because, USC has a loss. And USC, they're the highest ranked team in the Pac-12, but their schedule has been so terrible this year. How can you give them any benefit of the doubt? So I still think USC might lose like Notre Dame or something like that. But we'll see. I just don't see a Pac-12 team getting in this year.
Oregon opening day got manhandled. Why they would even schedule that game, Lord, I have no idea. They get manhandled by Georgia, but then they were rolling, absolutely rolling. And, typical, as you said, Pac-12, as we're getting closer, we're trying to figure this thing out. I don't want to say they laid an egg. Washington played a hell of a game. It was a great game. And then you look at a USC team, Lincoln Riley, 1 loss at Utah, 2-point conversion. So, again, it's almost like this in my eyes. You look at Alabama, they got 2 losses by a combined 4 points, both on the road, 1 at Tennessee, and then hats off to Brian Kelly, goes for the 2 against LSU, against them at home and wins. And you know what? I'm not a Brian Kelly fan. And we were sitting there watching the game opening day, and for him to get LSU into this position right now, they're in the the SEC final. They're in the championship game against Georgia. I thought I saw a look-ahead line. Now, please quote me here and tell me I'm wrong. Did I see Georgia minus 16?
I think it would probably be something like that. I mean,
wow. That's a pretty big number.
I don't know. They were just minus 16 at Mississippi State, so I'd probably think it was something like maybe 14.
Okay.
Maybe they'll put them 14 and a half, but I don't see 16. But because definitely LSU is much better than Mississippi State, so probably like 14, maybe 13. I don't think they would lay 13 and a half. I think they'd probably put it at 14 or 14 and a half. So definitely 2 touchdowns for sure.
And I 100% agree with you, and I don't know how they would do it. Let's just play the game. The Georgia Sheets, they beat LSU. They went out. Ohio State Sheets, they beat Michigan, who this Michigan team is better than last year's Michigan team. So it's going to be interesting. I thought I saw 9.5, 10 for, I think it's next week at Ohio State there. But if Ohio State Sheets, so you got your 1-2 all set up. But the problem is, does TCU sheet? If TCU sheets, I think obviously they're in. The Pac-12 would be probably outside looking in. Do they get that 1-loss Tennessee team that just has to win out against 2 inferior opponents, and they're going to backdoor? But you don't want that Georgia-Tennessee 1-4 to start the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they would just put Tennessee at 3 or something like that. The 3 and 4. I mean, they're not going to do that for the matchups, I don't think. But Tennessee would definitely be in over a 1-loss Pac-12 team. I mean, USC hasn't played. I mean, it's one thing if it was Utah, right? Because Utah went to Florida. Utah's played some tough games, right? USC hasn't beaten anybody. They haven't beaten anybody. And they've given up a ton of points. And that the game this past weekend they had against Colorado, I mean, that score was very misleading right there also. So USC, they're just scoring a lot of points, but they're playing nobody. Their schedule is just terrible. So I don't think that their schedule does them any favors. And Tennessee has much better wins than USC. So I think at this point we're looking at like the Pac-12 is on the outside looking in, unless TCU loses, unless Tennessee loses another one. I think pretty much the Pac-12 is on the outside looking in. I think Oregon really really made that happen because Oregon looked like the best team in the Pac-12 until they just lost. And Oregon's one of those names where people trust they've been there before, whereas USC, I don't know. Like their schedule has just been so bad. They don't have one top 25 win. I think they're 0-1 versus teams in the top 25. So I would definitely say that Pac-12 is going to be outside looking in again. Even a one-loss TCU is better than anything the Pac-12 has. So it's a tough go for the Pac-12. They seem to blow it every single year, and they did it this past weekend again. So
I talked weeks and weeks ago when Tennessee was playing Alabama, and you could have got Hooker at 14-1 to win the Heisman. And my thoughts were, if you thought Tennessee was going to win that game to take the 14-1 there, they have the clear path. Now that Heisman thing going back and forth, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young has taken a hit. Hooker just keeps on rolling, and Tennessee keeps on rolling. Any thoughts on the Heisman, where you would lean right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Bryce Young because Alabama hasn't lost because of him. You know, he's led them back on humpback drives to tie the game, to take the lead. Right, he had Alabama lined up for a winning field goal against Tennessee, and the kicker missed it. So nothing that Bryce Young has done to lose the Heisman. Just his defense has lost it for him and the kicker. Right now, I think you got to go with CJ Stroud just because they're undefeated. And, I mean, he just putting up 5 touchdowns pretty much every week. One thing I noticed about them, I mean, besides against Northwestern, every week they're keeping him in late, right? Like he's throwing his 5th touchdown pass up by 45 in the 4th quarter. So they're really filling up his stats. I think they really want to get him the Heisman. So I would be shocked like if CJ Stroud didn't win the Heisman. I don't think he's the best quarterback. Like NFL quarterback, I mean, Bryce Young should be much better. But I think, you know, for the Heisman this year, I think pretty much CJ Stroud, if he goes out there and dominates Michigan, I think pretty much he's got it. But if they lose to Michigan, could Hooker come back in? Sure. But I think right now it's CJ Stroud's to lose.
We had talked in August about this freight train, this Ohio State offense, and I had talked about just it's an auto bet every week to take their team total over. The first week they don't get there against Notre Dame, then they ran off 6 straight, and then they had the hiccup against Northwestern, and then boom, they get right back on the horse, even at a 48, I think they were this past week. For us here at ECSI, we have found the most success this year on the team totals. Yeah, I know everyone plays, sides, which side, who do you think's going to win? You're taking the points, you're laying the points, you're playing the money line. We've been most successful this year just nailing these team totals. Have you seen I don't want to use the word softer market, but have you seen that has been an easier way to go this year?
Yeah, I don't know about this year, but I mean, I can remember. So team totals was the first thing I would give out on Twitter back in 2014, right? I was the team total guy. And people used to complain to me all the time, like, I don't have team totals. Like, would you play the game total? And people would be like, where do you get team totals from? Like, a lot of people didn't even have them back then. And now everybody has them. So I've done pretty well this year on team totals. It's certainly, I prefer them over game totals because you don't have to worry about one team, right? Like, you don't want to have to worry about Indiana contributing points to a game's total when Ohio State can just do the lifting by themselves. There's certainly a lot more. I feel like there's a lot of value in team totals. You can really find a couple of good spots where even a team like UConn, say their team total is 10.5 and they're going against a team and they might be getting blown out, but at the end they might get a backdoor touchdown, for the cover for their team total. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities. And I prefer team totals over any other bet, to be honest. But this year, I haven't played as many as I normally do. But coming up, like the last few weeks, I definitely step up my team total numbers. So I'm looking forward to it the next few weeks.
We've been very successful there, and we're going to keep on rolling there. And I just think it's a market where, people were asking me, like, for instance, the Michigan-Nebraska game. Now, I'm a 1980s Nebraska fan with Dr. Tom Irvin Fryer back in those glory days. And here they were. Their team total was 9.5 against Michigan, and Michigan was 30-point favorites. I was more confident, and Michigan didn't get their team total. Their team total was 40. The under-over was literally 51. They're like, why wouldn't you bet the over in the game versus the team total of, say, Michigan? I was like, I don't think Nebraska is going to get to 10, and they ended up on 3. So as you said, I'd rather have the better, superior team doing the lifting versus having to worry about a Nebraska team somehow, some way getting the 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I've felt for years. And like I said, we've seen the market grow for team totals because when I first started doing it, 8 years ago, people on Twitter would give me shit. They'd be like, those bets don't exist. Like, I don't have any team totals. Like, where did you get that from? And, I think Five Dimes were one of the first sports books to put out team totals. So we've seen the team total market grow and explode to where, it's just a huge market today. And even when they legalized sports betting in New Jersey in 2018, we didn't even have DraftKings wouldn't even really put up many team totals, just for like primetime game and stuff like that. So the team total market is exploding, and I'm just couldn't be more happy about where it's headed.
I just saw our producer pop in the back here. I have to wish and congratulate Mr. Kiefer. Big weekend. Congratulations. You are a happily married man, and your Ole Miss team fought a hell of a battle, and you had Alabama right there. That would have been the cherry on top for you, Keith, but we were watching, and God bless you, and thank you. And it's Monday. You're supposed to take another day off for the mini honeymoon, we should say, but we'll talk about that later. I have to, when I get you on, Rob, I just want to bring it up. You're a big promoter, and when I say promoter, is I can see the light, the joy in the live golf right now, and your, I want to say, relationships with the Koepkas. And a couple weeks ago, you were back in your homeland at the tournament. All the pictures, all the videos was amazing. And I couldn't have been happier for you. Tell us about the experience. Tell us about the live moving forward, and more guys just jumping in. And it looks like 2023 is going to be even bigger.
Yeah, I think live will only continue to grow. The production they have there is so professional, and it feels so intimate. Like you feel like you have such a connection to the golfers there because you're so close to them. They're much more personable there. You can walk right up to Sergio Garcia, talk to Sergio Garcia, talk to Pat Perez, talk to Dustin Johnson right there on the range. These guys seem like they're having a lot more fun. It's putting the fun back in golf again. I love the team aspect, that we have, like especially with the season finale that I went to. It totally changes golf with the team aspect. It makes every hole fun. The shotgun start I love because something is going on every single hole, right? And it's 4.5 hours you're there for. You're not there for 12 hours the entire day like at a PGA tournament. I think part of the problem right now is the PGA, they just have too many tournaments, right? Like the Houston Open this past weekend. Yeah, Tony Finau wins. Great. But he's like in a field against nobody. Really, their field strength is just so terrible. Where Liv's field strength is going to be so strong every single week now. They just added an event in Australia now for next year. So it's only going to grow and grow. And just a professional event. It was fun. My wife went to it and she had fun. Right? Whereas, I've taken her to the Honda Classic before and she wants to go to sleep. And it's just hours and hours dragging out over the event. So I think Live is putting the fun back in golf, and I think we're hearing we don't hear like the people against it speak out as much anymore. Whenever like a kind of like a rival organization turns up, right? Like a new bully on the block, right? People get mad at first, right? They're really vocal, speaking out against it and stuff. I think that's kind of dying down. People were like, oh, Liv made it for their first year, so hey, let's start. Maybe we can take a look at it now, right? It wasn't the total failure we thought it would be. So let's take a look at it, right? So when you have that many good golfers, great golfers, half of the top 20 in the world is there, you got to start taking it seriously. So hopefully down the road we can get like the PJ and Liv not having like a joint venture, but just allowing players to play both, right? So that would be the dream. And I think Liv is making golf fun again. And some PGA purists won't agree with me and stuff like that, but that's fine. You can like whatever you want to like. I just think Liv is fun, and I can't wait to see where next season brings us.
Did I see? Was there 2 more golfers that went over, or was that Twitter being Twitter?
Well, there's talk about Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele going over there. They're good friends, so there's nothing final yet. And I assume it'll be a little while because, Liv season doesn't start till February. So I assume it will be a little while before we do hear anything. But I think they're looking for 7 more golfers. So, when they get those 7 more, I think we're going to have some serious fields on our hands. And like I said, I like the team aspect. So it's going to be fun. And I'm just looking forward to next season. It's cool to see some of these younger guys out there, these guys that were just in college, foregoing like their senior year of college to join Liv and stuff. These younger guys getting paid right now, whereas they probably would have had to fought for years on the Korn Ferry Tour just to get their PGA Tour card. So I think it's definitely furthering golf. The purists might not like it, but times change, and I think Liv is just here now. So you're going to have to either accept Liv or just move on and watch the PGA Tour continue to get watered down weekly with less and less talent that Liv is taking away from them.
You're a season ticket holder to the Florida Panthers, a regular season President Cup. They were absolute wagon last year. Obviously, tough first round in the playoffs. Second round, excuse me. Yes, went through the first round and the Lightning get them in the second round. I apologize there. I did have futures on them, so that's okay though. Give us an early season preview. My locals, the Boston Bruins, are just playing out of their ass right now. I mean, I didn't see this. No locals saw this at all. They get rid of Cassidy. He goes out to Vegas. The Bruins just start out with a couple of their key injuries, McAvoy and Marchand, and they don't skip a beat. They just keep on rolling. How's your Panthers started off this season? What are you seeing? And give us your overall thought process early in the NHL season.
Yeah, I haven't really been a fan of the Panthers' new coach, Paul Maurice, to start the year. With Andrew Burnett and Coach Q last year, the Panthers were more of the attacking team. They're kind of like the cardiac cats last year, where their defense wasn't as great, so they'd come out, they'd be trailing by 2 goals, they'd come back to win. I think they had the most 3-goal comebacks in NHL history last year in one season. This year, we don't see them getting down by as much. They're starting out a little faster this year, but they're kind of blowing a couple of leads and stuff like that. And they're just playing a new system. They got Keith Kachuk, taking over for Jonathan Huberdeau. It took Barkov, a couple of games to get into the season. I think they're just getting more used to each other right now, trying to gel. I'd rather have that and then them playing well, like going into the postseason. Whereas, you never want to be the hottest team in November in any sport, really. So it's a long season. We'll see what happens. I don't think they'll win the President's Cup this year. Presidents, obviously. But I think they can, it's a tough division, So, I mean, it's hard to win in hockey. I think they'll be better next year. But I think if they kind of fall flat this year and it's kind of a dud, I would get rid of Maurice and bring in like a higher tempo coach. But they look all right. They've given away some games against some lesser teams, but they shut out the Hurricanes the other night, which was nice. But then they came back and lost to the Oilers on Saturday. So they've been up and down, and just hoping that they'll just continue to get better as the season goes on.
I have to talk before we go on to the last subject here. The Miami Hurricanes are staring at Sap right now over your shoulder. A season outside looking in, high expectations, new coach, and he brought in the dream team with all the coaches. We know it takes a few years, even with the transfer portal. I watch your timeline every Saturday. It hasn't been fun. Give us your Hurricane late season report.
Well, I mean, they had a lot of injuries, which kind of hurt them off the bat, but not really a big fan of Mario Cristobal. I think Josh Gaddis, the offensive coordinator they brought from Michigan, he was like the assistant of the year last year, the Broyles Award winner. I think his offense has been a total fraud. I mean, you're running a 1990s offense, with a bunch of today's players. I just don't think it works. He's very stubborn. He won't change a lot of the stuff. And then after games, he throws these players under the bus, like in front of the media. He blames it all on them. He doesn't take any responsibility himself. So hopefully they fire Gaddis after this year, and either bring somebody in who can score some points with a spread offense, or they just have somebody from within call the plays, because I don't think Gaddis is that guy. Their defense has been poor too. I think Kevin Steele, defense coordinator, I think his time has passed him by. I've talked to a bunch of former players who played for him that do not like him at all. So I think he's another fraud. And Cristobal, they say he's a great recruiter, but you got to win these games at the end of the day. And he just hasn't done it. So I think it's very telling that they were the underdog against Georgia Tech. If you would have told me that at the beginning of the year, I would have said you're crazy. But Georgia Tech was projected to be the worst team in the ACC, and Miami was like the second favorite to come out of the ACC, losing to Florida State by 42 points. I mean, that doesn't help. I don't know if the Hurricanes will ever be back, to be honest. Like days of Warren Sapp, I think those might be long gone. It's just so competitive now. And even though I'm a Hurricanes fan, if I was like the number one recruit in the country right now, I would not go to Miami. I'd rather go to Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, somewhere where they would groom me to become a NFL player. I don't know at Miami right now. They're not really doing much of that. So it's tough times for the Hurricanes, but I don't know if they're ever going to get it right. So I don't really, I'm past the point where I care. So I just really have no expectations for them anymore at all. And I don't mind that. That's fine, because there's more things than just being a fan, So it's fine with me. I don't care. I just move on to the next. If they win, that's great. If they lose, whatever. But I just don't let it dictate my emotions anymore. So
I 100% agree. I'm the same way with Nebraska. I don't ever expect them to get back to a sea of red and where they were dominant. I didn't like the move to the Big Ten. They can't find a coach. They had that same 80 offense that they were trying to run forever. Yeah. They are light years behind. So I feel your pain there. We'll wrap this up here. I want to go to the NFL before we go here. I, too, was a part of the Bills. I thought they were the team to beat. I still think they're the team to beat, but my thought process was that you were going to have to go into Buffalo. They would be the number one seed, and I couldn't see anyone beating them in Buffalo come January. Could it happen still? Yeah, it could. Yesterday's game, I've never seen anything like it. I know you don't practice first down from your half-inch line, and you just got to get the ball over the goal line. And they had one timeout. They would have called the timeout, so you had to do it twice. And So I guess my question to you is, you still feel that Buffalo out of the AFC is where we'll be talking in January? Or, I'm sitting back and I'm just like, geez, maybe it is that Kansas City team no one's talking about. What are you seeing in the AFC, Rob?
Well, I think the Chiefs are definitely getting better weekly. The Bills have not scored a second half touchdown in 4 weeks. I think that's a little troubling. The Dolphins are looking very dynamic. Tua looks great. Number one quarterback in the NFL, QBR. 18 touchdowns, 3 picks on the year. He looks great. Mike McDaniel is doing a great job with that offense. I think the AFC is between the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Dolphins, to be honest. And right now, I think I would have to go with the Chiefs just because Mahomes is being more safe with the ball. Josh Allen, I think he only had 1 red zone turnover before the last 2 games. I think he has 4 or 5 in the last 2 games alone. So it seems like he's being careless with the ball. And he just can't do that. You just have to, like the interception he threw yesterday to end the game. There's no need to throw that pass, right? Why force it in there? There was no need to do that. He's just being a little careless. The fumble they had on the goal line, I mean, that's a once in 100 right there, right? That's never the Vikings can't count on that happening every week to win, right? So I think it's a lot of fluke stuff that's been happening also. I think the Bills just need to just get through it, keep grinding. But, I mean, they still have 8 games left, right? So there's still plenty of time for the Bills to improve. They're just like any team. You don't want to be playing your best football in November, right? So there's plenty of time left for them to turn it around. And I think the Bills will turn it around for sure. I have them at 6-1 to win the Super Bowl, so I'm pulling for the Bills. But I think they definitely have to worry about the Chiefs right now and the Dolphins if they play in Miami. So the Bills, I think the Bills are still fine, but the season will tell us. I think they want to get home field over KC for sure, because you don't have to go back to KC with all those memories. Even though they've done well there, I think they're 3-1 in KC, but they want to get home field, especially up there in January. So I think the Bills will get it back together, but they just can't be as careless as they've been with the ball. Lots of fluke stuff happening, but they've really got to get their ball management locked down tight. Can't be turning it over in the red zone every week and expecting to win games.
And the Minnesota now 8-1. No one's talking about. I do a show every week with Dave Sharapan and Brady Tinker on Sportsbook Confessions. And since August, I've talked about MVP and the quarterback there, Kirk Cousins, at 40-1 from Minnesota. It was more of a joke because I knew he had the best wide receiver in the game, Justin Jefferson, with the catch of a lifetime to get that 4th down, uncoverable. But when I go out to the NFC, obviously the Eagles are undefeated. Tom Brady now with back-to-back wins. They're showing some life. They're in a division that they're supposed to win. Big win for Rodgers and the Packers, who obviously not going to win the division there, but Dallas with another loss. Now, what I saw last night, coming off a bye with the 49ers, is Shanahan with so many toys. You could watch him, especially in the red zone, trying to figure out, am I going to give it to McCaffrey? Am I going to give it to Debo? Now he's got Eli Mitchell. I say this team getting healthier is who I'm going to back. I know the Eagles to go into Philly in January is going to be a tough task if they have the number one. Who knows what happens with Minnesota? What is your actual thoughts if I said to you, hey, here's $1,000, who you putting it on to be the NFC representative?
I'd probably take Philly right now.
Okay.
You never bet against Tom Brady. He is 2-0 since getting divorced. So you never bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs. But I'd probably go with the Eagles right now, even though they haven't really played many people. Haven't really played a tough schedule. But I think the NFC West has just been complete garbage. And Christian McCaffrey, how long can you depend on him to be healthy for, right? So And at the end of the day, it's Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy who can't get it done in the big moments, right? The 49ers bug me because their fans have given up on Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, they quit on Jimmy Garoppolo months ago, right? If it wasn't for Jimmy Garoppolo, they would be like 2-8 right now. And now their fans are back on the bandwagon like they never talked bad about Jimmy Garoppolo. So that entire franchise basically forgot about Garoppolo. And now he's doing them a favor by winning. So I just think that it's a thankless franchise for what they did with Jimmy G, right? Maybe it'll work out for them, maybe it won't. But at the end of the day, like, will Garoppolo get it done in the conference championship game or something like that? I just don't know. Can Shanahan get it done in the clutch? He hasn't been able to before, so at least Philly gives you that wild card, whereas Jalen Hurts in the playoffs, he'll be dynamic, running the ball. He's been playing great, so we'll just have to see where the Eagles go, like, from here with a harder schedule, and can they keep it going? So I'd lean to the Eagles right now, but I think that the Eagles still aren't as good as the Chiefs or Bills when they're playing at their best, right? So the Eagles also have second half issues, scoring in the second half. So I think it's wide open right now. I mean, I still wouldn't be surprised if we saw Brady get back to the Super Bowl, because you can definitely see a path to get there if Tampa Bay plays well. So their defense has been playing well. If their offense can get going, I mean, Tampa Bay is right there. So we'll just, we'll see what happens. And it doesn't hurt them that they're in a division where all they have to do is make the playoffs. We've seen them win on the road in the playoffs before, so they just got to get there. And if Tampa Bay gets there, I think they're as dangerous as anybody.
Rob, we can't thank you enough. The scroll has been going the whole time on Twitter at Beating the Bookie. You are a force to reckon with. As we close right here, tell everyone where they can find you, where they can get your picks, where they can reach out to you for the rest of 2022 and beyond.
Well, I've got like a deviated septum today, so my sinuses are going crazy. But you guys can find me on beatingthebookie.com, and you can find me on Beating the Bookie on Twitter. Jeff will post a handle, stuff like that. So, I give out a lot of free plays. We have client packages on site, stuff like that. So it's a very fun time to be a client. We got NHL, we got college basketball, we got NBA, NFL, college football, soccer. So we got everything that you could possibly want. If you don't have enough money to buy the packages, just play the free plays and you'll still have fun. So that's about it. Just looking forward to coming on this show next time. So I had fun today, and I appreciate you having me on.
Much, much, much thanks. Glad that we could finally connect, and especially struggling with the sinuses. Take care of those allergies. That's what happens when you live in the beautiful state of Florida, Rob.
Yeah, I don't know what it's from, but I got like a bad allergy attack yesterday. Just one of the worst I've had. So I'm trying to hold off going to the doctor, as we always do. So we'll see. Hopefully after today it gets better, but if it doesn't, I might have to head down for a checkup, so we'll see.
Well, we look forward to seeing all the beautiful pictures from the Bahamas. Have a blast. Best of luck, and keep on crushing Twitter and keep on winning, brother.
Thanks. You too. See you later.
Take care.
All right. See you.
The one and only Rob at Beating the Bookie. Go find him on Twitter. If you don't, well, you're missing out. So we can't thank everyone enough. What a way to start the week with Rob and myself later tonight. Myself and where we going? I think we're going with Riley. Southside Riley, as we get the closing bell, probably around 4:00 my time. And we'll get you caught up on the Monday night game, some college hoops, some NBA, some NHL, and all that good stuff. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, special thanks to Rob at Beating the Bookie. Great way to start the weekend, and we will see you soon.